Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the 2024 Cardinal rotation, is going to need some help. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Smorka.
Hey, Nate H.
Wow, and today on this episode, we're going to talk about Adam Wainwright. We're going to talk about John Mozeliak's recent statements. We're going to talk about some of the recent roster moves, and we're going to check in on the upcoming series against the Mets and the series against Pittsburgh. If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Hambone, it's late. We're doing Tab After Dark. How you feeling right now?
Hey, I'm feeling better than Wander Franco right now.
Oh, topical
I thought,
and not funny.
It's not funny, is it?
No.
But I'm feeling good. I just had
Yeah.
a nice meal. I feel full, feel
Okay.
ready. I got a couple of glasses of red vino coursing through my little stomach. I feel great. How about you?
Are you a wine guy?
When I'm eating a steak, I am.
Hey, Jesus. Okay. Who's this guy? Hi.
Steak guy.
I hate him.
I like to dip my steak in the wine
for the first time. Oh my God. Well, I mean, I guess
you had oysters for the first time.
No, not for the first time. For the first time in a long time.
Okay.
When I was down in Florida. Actually, the first time I ever had them was in Boston with you, so it wasn't even that long ago.
Oh wow. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. I don't know. I just have never sought them out, and frankly, that opinion maintains. It's fine. They're fine. Are you an oyster guy?
Yeah, I'm a freak for oysters. Yeah,
that's what I like them. That's why I brought it out.
I like them. They're salty. They're briny. They're delicious. I like to put a little bit of sauce on them sometimes if I'm feeling wild.
Dip them
they're
in
great.
wine.
It's like you're doing a shot of the sea,
but
it's food. It's great.
Well, when you put it that way, why doesn't everyone like them? It's like a shot from the sea, but it's food. Yeah, it's fine. The ones that we had in Boston were a lot better than the ones that we had in Florida. But they did tell me they were from a place called Murder Bay.
Yeah,
and it was called that because the previous owners, like when it was originally established, were two brothers, and one of them murdered the other one. And that's why it's
come by our oysters.
Yeah, it's kind of how I suspect this podcast is going to end also. So
yeah, except we'll both be okay with it, and it'll be a double murder rather than just one murdering the other.
A double murder. We murder each other at exactly the same time.
I think the only thing I don't like about oysters are how they always tell you where we got them from. We got these just came in off such and such boat from such and such murder bay. I don't know. I don't care. I'm never going to go to this bay.
Well, I generally would agree with you, although Murder Bay was an interesting anecdote. And there was a guy who recently died here in St. Louis from eating a bad oyster. So I think there must be it's a truly horrible story. Just like a random like shack restaurant here in St. Louis. They had some bad oysters and the person died from it. So I suspect there must be some like I've had them twice. I have no idea, but there must be some, I
know nothing about what I'm going to say. Let me talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like people want to know. It's like getting a bottle of wine, right? You want to know where it came from, even if. Yeah, you've said that twice now. It's got worse. I think people want to know where it's supposed to be like a delicacy, right? You want to know,
sure.
Where did they come from?
Well, all I'm saying is if there are any wait staff out there listening to this, I don't care. Bring me it.
Just put them in my belly. I'll eat the shells.
Yeah, I don't care. Mash them up. Put it in a stew.
Yeah, nice. little Gollum reference there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Wow. All
LOTR,
right.
baby.
So you had a good steak. That's cool. Good for you. You're a cool guy. Had a bottle of wine. You're feeling good. We've talked about oysters. I
Yeah.
guess we can get into the podcast. Although one last note, I'm going to the game this Sunday, and I made a
Wow.
promise to the podcast at the beginning of the season that I would try Shaq's Chicken Shack or whatever.
Is this your
The big
first
chick.
game that you're going to?
It is, Ben. This I know it's you would think that
I
would be
need to find a new
sacrilege.
co-host. Yeah, this is
I know. It's been a weird summer, but to be fair, I have been to Cardinal games this year, just not in St.
yeah,
Louis.
sure.
But yeah, it's been a weird year for the old schedule, but we're doing it. Going on Sunday. Going to see the Mets, a tale of two failed seasons,
Yeah.
and I'm going to eat a chicken sandwich,
Okay.
and I will report back next week. So
All
that's
right.
my promise. That's my promise to the podcast.
I can't wait for
Uh,
next week.
to the person like 3 months ago who tweeted me a picture of the chicken sandwich or the shack or whatever, I'm doing it for you.
Wow.
Yep, it's a commitment that I
Well,
have to this podcast.
I don't think there's ever been anything more exciting that's ever happened. I can't
It's
wait.
truly, this is peak entertainment. It's where those Patreon bucks are going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I normally go to a lot of games, but I don't know. There was just something about this year. I can't quite put my finger on it that just never made it feel like quite the priority to get out to the ballpark.
Yeah, so that is interesting. You don't go to any baseball games, and the Cardinals have one of their worst seasons of the past 30 years or so. So that's, yeah, wow. It's
Hmm.
all right. I
Well,
don't know.
maybe, yeah, maybe there's something to it. Maybe the Cardinals should pay me to go to their games.
There you go. Bill DeWitt
Bill,
tier.
Bill Twit.
Bill DeWitt tier. Um, ripe for the picking. Go for it, Billy.
Yeah, please, someone just 1 month. All right, well let's actually talk about the Cardinals. You wanted to start with a little fun fact here.
Yeah.
Uh, the well, I'll let you throw it out.
Yeah, and I can't take credit for this. This was brought to my attention from Ben Clemens, a fellow St. Louisan and writer for Fangraphs. But this is the longest streak in American in the Big Four sports. Is the Pirates have not been above the Cardinals in the standings at the end of the season since 1999, and again, that is the longest streak of its kind in the Big Four sports. The Cardinals and the Pirates, as of today, are tied at 54
Hmm.
and 66. And why I bring this up is, first off, that's fascinating. That illustrates how good the Cardinals have been and how bad the Pirates have been over that time
I'm
period.
really surprised, honestly, that
I
there hasn't been like a lower, like just another matchup like that that's lined up where someone has just not ended above them. But I guess
it,
that's 24 seasons, or is if the 1999's probably the 99 season counts. So yeah, 24
yeah,
seasons of. So that is, I mean, it's a quarter of a century of being beaten by another team in the
right. And I mean,
standings.
there
But
there are good Pirates teams in there. The Cardinals were just also good at that time.
yeah,
Um,
the
so,
2015 season when the Cardinals won 100 games, the Pirates won 99 games, and the
right,
Cubs won
98,
98.
99. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, the Cardinals and Pirates are tied for last in the NL Central right now.
Hmm.
And honestly, it's anyone's game. I could see this going either way. Obviously, I
Yeah.
believe one team is more talented, but that doesn't, that's not turning into wins right now. But
Well, at this
pretty,
point, you could argue the Pirates have a better starting pitching staff, especially with the recent injuries. So
I think you could argue that pretty easily. But on the other side of the ball, it's not close. That is,
yeah,
in my
yeah.
opinion, at least. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the story of the season. So yeah, like, well, I think we'll talk about this a little bit, and maybe I'll bring this up in the Waino segment. But like, I don't know, are wins even valuable anymore? Like, is it
I,
okay to break this streak? The other thing, and again, I want to give credit where credit is due. Ben Clemens kind of brought up this point, but it does seem like, and I agree with his point. It does seem like if not this year, then this streak has a very high likelihood of continuing on for quite a
For quite a
while.
while.
Because I would
Yeah.
say if you were to look at the tea leaves for these two franchises, the Pirates and the Cardinals, you would expect very different results in 2024 and 5 and maybe even 6. I mean, I guess it depends on how some of these rookies or these prospects for the Pirates come up. If you believe in Henry Davis and De La Cruz and some of the, or sorry, O'Neill Cruz,
O'Neill
um,
Cruz,
and some of
Indy
these other players.
Rodriguez, Paul
Yeah.
Skeens, their number 1
Yeah.
overall pick. Like they have a path towards competition, but I think like the Cardinals offense, which is locked in for the foreseeable future, and likely stands to improve with some of their recent draft picks and some of their guys in the minors. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the Cardinals or the Pirates are going to be competing on offense anytime soon.
No.
Um, and we'll talk about it in the Mozeliak session, but depending on how this offseason goes, yeah, it could reset this rivalry for another 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's funny though you bring it up because when I went on C70's show, I like the last segment of that episode, I basically committed to the only thing I care about for the rest of this year is the Cardinals beating the Pirates and
Right.
ending higher than the Pirates. And I didn't know about this streak until now, and I would love for this streak to continue. I think that's fascinating and awesome. But also I have this, like, I think a lot of Cardinal fans right now, I have this like really strange push and pull between just wanting the Cardinals to win, being an optimistic fan, and enjoying good baseball, and also just the idea of that like super high draft pick, first overall, second overall, something like that is just incredibly appealing. We've talked about it a lot on this show. Just like the draft classes just seem to be getting better, and
Yeah.
those top picks just seem to be hitting way more often. I don't know. This may be purely anecdotal and it's not backed up, but at least the last few first
Well,
overall, second overalls have been really, really good picks.
yeah, and I think it's a matter of fact that high level NCAA baseball is much better now than it
Yeah.
was even 5 or 6 years ago. So like Paul Skeens is who was the number 1 overall draft pick for the Pirates, just to make sure we're all on the same page. But like he is somebody who could probably slot into a big league
He'd be the best starter on
rotation.
the Cardinals right now.
Yeah, like next year.
Yeah.
I think he'll ascend really, really quickly. Like he's just gonna get like used to wooden bats and uh
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
he's
know.
throwing 100 right now. He had his
Right.
pro debut just the other day, and it was good. And then
Yeah.
the second overall, Dylan Cruz, who most people thought was going to go first overall, he looks like he's going to be a masher in the majors. And of
Yeah.
course, you never know. For every Julio, there's a Kellenic or a Torkelson, or you run down the list of people who have not quite clicked yet, but still, you take the
Yeah.
shot with these sorts
Well,
of guys. So.
yeah, and like to put it into like Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens, if you look at Fangraphs top 100 prospects right now, they have played a second of big league ball and they slot in at 5 and 6 on the big
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
So, of course, all the caveats, but the fact that you go, and by the way, Jackson Holiday, the first overall pick of the year prior to that, is the number 1
Number one
prospect in
prospect.
baseball.
Yep.
So
Speaking of
yeah,
him, have you seen there's another Holiday. Ethan Holiday is going
really,
to be in the draft next year and uh, is the right now being considered the best high school player. And so will
man, what
likely
are they doing in Oklahoma at the Holiday House? Wow,
I would think, yeah.
he's big. He's
Yeah.
got okay.
And
Cardinals tank, tank,
I don't
tank,
think he
tank.
looks like I don't think he looks like a weird baby doll like Jackson Holiday looks like. He's such a
What?
he's only like 19 or whatever. He's gonna mature. He's gonna he's probably
He's gonna beat your ass.
yeah, he's gonna be great. He's incredible, but I don't know.
That's really funny.
Who am I to judge? But he looks incredibly young for
Yeah,
how like and he is incredibly young. Don't get me wrong, but like a lot of these guys, you're like that guy's 19. He looks 35.
right.
But Jackson Holiday looks like a child
Yeah,
with like a Matt Holiday body. So
apparently like a baby doll to you.
yeah, he looks like a haunted doll.
All right. I'm not sure how I
So
feel.
I
I
guess
think we should just move away from.
we should move on. We win on both sides. The Cardinals either don't, either beat the Pirates and maintain this streak, which is fun, or we have a better shot at a higher draft pick.
Right.
At some point, we should probably break down how the lottery works and all that, but we got plenty of time for that.
Hey,
So
there's some meaningful baseball afoot, my friend. We can talk about that in the off season.
that's right. We need content in the off season, and it can't just be Otani watch.
Well, that's going to be a lot of
So
it.
yeah. All right, let's talk about Adam
Spoiler.
Wainwright.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get it. Yeah.
let's go
Break it
into
down, Nate.
let's go into a fun conversation. Uh, Adam Wainwright is currently at negative 2.3 B WAR, baseball reference WAR.
Yeah.
In his last 4 starts, he's only pitched 15 innings for a 12.6 ERA, giving up a 1.149 combined OPS. So it's kind of as bad as it's been for Wainwright right now. It's really, I don't know if there's been a worse 4-game stretch this season for Adam Wainwright. And there's a lot of discussion right now on what should the Cardinals be doing. Wainwright's basically giving the same press conference after every single game. And
Right.
and what can he do? We all know Adam Wainwright. We all love Adam Wainwright. He's gonna say the same thing every time because it is truly how he feels. He's upset. He doesn't want to go out like this. He wants another shot. And so what do the Cardinals do? We got a month and a half left of the season. This is ultimately a shitty situation, right? We're all kind of hoping for like just that little micro bounce back that we can end on a high note and he can go and we can have a fun into the season or something like that. But what are you feeling right now, Ben?
I mean, unfortunately, he's cooked. He has the lowest average fastball velocity of his career, sitting at
Yeah.
86.4. He is, I'm just going to go through these really quick. He is the worst in baseball at expected ERA. He is the worst at expected batting average, the worst expected slugging. He is the worst K percentage, he is the worst fastball velocity, the worst whiff percentage. And he is also very low in barrel percentage and chase rate. The one thing that he still has going for him is that curveball is still spinning. So I think it really, it's how does Waino want to end his time? Does he want to, I don't think embarrass himself is the right word, but does he want to go out and take a beating for the next 2 months or month and a half and try to go for those 2 wins? Or does he want to end as a productive big leaguer and slot into the bullpen and pump curveballs and, just try to help the team and be a part of the guys and then kind of fade off and it not be a big deal? And I will say, I don't think it really matters because he's
Yeah.
not giving you bulk innings either way because he's not being productive enough to give you bulk innings. The Cardinals need innings, period. So I don't think they should drop him. There is like a value, even if he is coming in and getting an inning and a half. The Cardinals need that inning and a half because of the names that are not. There's just no pitching.
Yeah.
So I really think it's up to him. And I think if I was him, I'd probably keep starting and keep going for it. And I would probably throw that curveball 60% of the time and try to steal a couple and hope that the offense just explodes. And maybe if I give up 5 in 5, that's a good enough start to get a win if the offense can go beat up on some Mets pitching or something like that. So,
Yeah.
like, the value of a win is non-existent at this point for the Cardinals. It actually might be a
It might
negative
be
towards
opposite.
the
Yeah.
right. So I think that, if you're Mo, you're kind of in a good spot where I would just say, hey, Adam, however you want to handle this, it's fine with us. If you think you want to run yourself back out there 3 or 4 more times, okay, we just need to make sure we have somebody ready to back you up. If not, you make sense in the bullpen too, and you can back up one of our other bad starters. It's
Yeah.
it's. But I don't. I'd be. He's such a competitor. It's hard to understand exactly how he's looking at it and what he's thinking and what he wants to do and spend his
Yeah.
time and blah blah blah.
I suspect that he's going to start as long as he maintains, his own perception of health. He's going to start every fifth or so day until the end of the season, and it's going to line up. They're going to have him start the last home game at Busch. I don't know this for sure, but I bet there's a first pitch with Yachty or something like that. Maybe Pujols. I don't know. And it is what it is. Like, I don't think there's a difference for his legacy of him retiring now or getting moved to the bullpen now versus getting lit up for the next month and a half. Like, it's already happened.
Yeah,
Everyone, even if he has like a fine month and a half, this season's going to be remembered as like the Wainwright collapse, but we'll
yeah,
also forget about it almost immediately. I think about like Jason Isringhausen, who was, is a Cardinal Hall of Famer. He was booed off the mound his last like 6 appearances as a
right.
Cardinal, and now he's a beloved member of Cardinal history, and gets all the
Yeah,
accolades, and he was like a good closer for an extended amount of time. Wainwright is like inner circle Cardinal Hall of Fame,
absolutely.
borderline real life Hall of Fame. This season is not helping that, though I don't think it was going to happen in the first place, but like he's going to be on the ballot and he might
Yeah,
catch a vote or two, from like
he
Cardinal writers and stuff. But
he's got Veterans Committee written all over him. I don't think I would vote for him, but like Harold Baines' path to
he,
the Hall of Fame, like it would not blow my mind if something like that
yeah,
happened.
I,
What's
I thought
also,
that path was a lot more likely when I thought he was going to pitch till he was 44 and
yeah,
like just accrue more counting stats. But now
yeah,
that it's like he's done and it's just tanking everything, like I'd be surprised. Of course, personally, obviously, we're a Cardinal podcast. I would love it. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's the Hall of Very Good. He
yeah,
his peak unfortunately lined up with some other peaks, including Chris Carpenter, which might have cost him or cost Chris Carpenter a Cy Young. Like some of those accolades that generally a pitcher needs in order to get into the Hall of Fame, he just doesn't
yeah,
have. But I don't know. I
and
have seen people say 200 wins is the new 300. Like if you can get to 200, like that is a milestone that could be Hall of Fame worthy. So I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I think this is why guys don't make it to the Hall of Fame, so it's not that surprising. But he's got a couple of lost seasons because of injury, and
Yeah.
I think that's really more the kicker than anything. What blows my mind, and I think that you and I agree that he was smoking mirrors a little bit, but it was working consistently. But really quick, the last 2 years, 2021 and 2022, and obviously he kind of saved the team in 2020, in that weird ass year.
Yeah.
But over those 2 years, 21 and 22, he was 2 innings short of throwing 400 innings. He had a 3.37 ERA and a 3.66 FIP. Like he
Yeah.
was good
He was good. Well,
for
there's a reason why I thought he
bulk
was going to
innings.
pitch. Yeah, there's a reason why I thought he was going to pitch into his 40s. I thought he was going to be one of those guys who just like, like a Rich Hill type. Rich Hill is still out there being effective. And so I thought he was basically going to follow that. But uh, there's a considerable difference between an 89 mile per hour fastball that can touch 90 and 91 and an 86 mile per hour fastball that
Yeah.
maybe touches 87 and 88.
So
Like, you
to
wouldn't think
that
so,
point,
but it feels that way.
yeah, his average fastball velocity in 21 was 89.3, and in
Yeah.
22 88.1, and then like I said, or like you just said, 86 miles an hour this year,
Yeah.
which to me more just points that he's probably hurt. We
Right.
know that he's like injected with all kinds of drugs. And I think if this was not the year that it has been, if the Cardinals had starting pitching, Waino probably would have gone on the shelf for longer, gotten actually healthy rather than this, which just sucks.
Yeah. It sucks. It's like it really is. I've said this before, but this is like inverse 2022. You
Yeah.
know, like in 2022, not only did we have a great year, we also had the killer Albert Pujols story. I mean, Yachty, it was a bit of an up and down year, but he got to leave on a high note, and like it was a perfect blend of good baseball and also stellar narrative. And this year we're getting bad baseball and our one narrative that, everyone, our feel good narrative of 2023 has been horrible. It is
Yeah.
like tanking so much of what we wanted for Adam Wainwright. um but it is what it is. Baseball's hard. He's one of the oldest pitchers in baseball. Like, most guys don't make it into their late 30s, let alone into their 40s. And it sucks. But like I said, I this will be the most easily forgotten thing in
Right.
like Cardinal history. Like, we may say, yeah, bummer 23, whatever, but like, he is one of the best Cardinals of all time. And this sucks, but you know, it'll be fine. I
Yeah.
think unless he gets truly hurt again, we're gonna see him every 5 days. I kind of hope exactly what you said. He gives up 5 runs, but makes it into the fifth. I've seen some people calling for him to be put in the bullpen, and the Cardinals should, like, sort of like game it a little bit. Like, Zach Thompson goes in and throws 3 scoreless. The Cardinals score 5. Throw Waino out there for 2 so he gets the win from the scorekeeper,
Yeah.
like, something like
I
that. And while I like, obviously that sounds like, you know, like it could work if truly all you're trying to do is optimize Adam Wainwright getting 2 more wins. You could see a world where that would work. But I don't think he wants that. I don't think the fans really want that. Like, it's
also, is it going to work? Like, what to you has proved that he could come out and be effective for one inning? What if he comes into that situation and just gets blown up
yeah,
and
like
accrues another loss? Like,
the Gallegos session, the Gallegos inning from a couple nights ago. The scorekeeper didn't give him the win because they ruled his outing short and ineffective or something
yeah,
like that. Even though, like, the way he lined up as far as the progression of the game, you'd expect him to get the win, but the game scorer didn't give it to him for
yeah.
that. And it was his birthday. But
I didn't know that. That's funny.
yeah, yeah.
That's a little salt in the wound, but what are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
But yeah, I mean, but I could see like a game theory, or like, if they just hold him just for that situation, and that situation maybe comes up 4 or 5 times through the end of
Yeah,
to the end of the
there's.
season,
I don't,
but
I
again,
I
I
don't think
think
there's any way he would agree to that. Also,
no, I don't think so either.
it's like
And so,
against the spirit of the whole thing.
yeah, it's with the famous like Ted Williams thing, right? Where, like, it was Ted Williams, right? Where he had the
I
batting
don't know what you're about to
400.
say.
So he was batting 400, and it was the last game of the season. And the coach said, like, "Hey, do you want to just sit?"
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and he said, "No, because if I do that, then I didn't really hit 400." And
Right,
then he went out and got like 3 or 4 hits or whatever,
right.
and ended with like a 403 or something.
If you're
So
yeah, if you're pitching a perfect game, you can't walk Albert Pujols. I think that's a 30 Rock quote, where he is
nice.
weirdly referenced. But yeah, no, I get that. I like that.
There was a brief moment where Pujols was referenced. Family Guy made that actual Pujols joke that, like, every fan of Albert
Oh
Pujols just
god,
like
Family Guy
sidestepped for
sucks. Yeah,
the entire existence of Albert Pujols. But of course, they made that joke.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
smart comedy.
it is smart. Uh, yeah. So I don't know. It is what it is at this point. He's supposed to start on Thursday, tomorrow, against the Mets. Um, yeah.
Hey, you
I
know
mean,
what? Honestly, that's a good matchup because the Mets suck shit right now.
well,
And
I would have said that about the Royals, and he had, what did he give up, 8 earned runs over one inning against the
yeah,
Royals. But
yeah, but
actually,
those
the
Royals,
Royals, they're playing better right now. Their
they're playing
offense
better
is,
right now. Bobby
yeah.
Witt Jr., he scares me more than most of the Mets lineup.
I don't know. Lindor and Alonso are
Yeah,
still.
they have some thumpers. Yeah,
Who wants an 86 mile per hour fastball or a hanging curveball? Pete Alonso.
yeah, he does.
He's a
I'm
big
the
tough.
best power hitter in the
Yeah,
world.
he's a big strong guy.
Yeah, he is. but
Yeah.
they suck. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But
All right.
it'd be fun.
Yeah, let's move on. We got a little bit of insight into what the Cardinal offseason might look like. John Mozeliak did a radio interview,
Yeah.
and in his typical sort of cagey, evasive self, he didn't say a lot, but we did actually get something that I thought was really interesting that has sparked a ton of conversation across all of baseball, or all of Cardinal fandom, is
Sure.
that he gave us a number. We never
Yes.
get numbers from him. He said the Cardinals will need to acquire 3 starting pitchers,
Yeah.
which I think is a funny number because it's actually, it's. I'm glad to hear that it's 3 because with
Yeah.
with Mozeliak's track
It could have
record,
been one for
it could have been
sure.
1. Yeah, so I'm glad to hear they're looking for 3. I think they need even more than that, but if depending on the 3, it it could be fundamentally different. Is it
Yeah.
3 actual MLB level quality starters? Okay,
Exactly.
then
That's
we're
where it
probably,
gets.
yeah. Or is it like 2 and then a guy who might come up later in the, I don't know. But anyway, we got that number 3. The Cardinals want to acquire 3 starting pitchers. They're going to be active in the starting pitching market. So it's nice to hear him say we need starting pitching because we don't have Flaherty and Montgomery going into 2024, but outside of that, it's about the same as it was going into 2023. And he was all like, we have 6 starters going into
Yeah.
2023. So,
Y-
yeah.
Yeah. It's so obviously Montgomery's gone, Flaherty's gone, Waino will be gone. Um, Michaelis is at the top of the list. And Matt's is maybe that second. The thing that I'm curious about with this statement and why I think 3 is actually a little bit of an annoying answer is because so Matt's is out there,
Yeah.
right? Libertor is out there. And then all these young guys, whether you want to talk about Jerpy or McGreevy or Graceffo or Hentz or whatever, there are those guys. So Miles is a lock. You would think Steven Matz, especially with how he's performed. I mean, the guy's got a 3.86 ERA over 105 innings at this point, a 112 ERA plus, according to Baseball Reference. He's turned it around. Now,
Yeah.
do you bet on this? I don't know. And maybe Mozeliak has learned his lesson of trying to bet on best case scenarios. Um, so let's say you go sign a free agent, right? You break up some of your player depth, your infield and outfield player depth, and you go get a Logan Gilbert or something along the lines, and then you bring in another guy, however that may be. But let's say I almost guarantee you one's going to be trade, one's going to be free agent. What is that? Does that mean that all those other names that we're talking about that are knocking on the big league door are these to be depth options? Is there to be a competition? Is there to be a rotating thing? Are we going to be managing innings? It's really confusing because there are like unless let me finish my thought. It's very confusing to me because 3 is a number that does not align with the way that they've been evaluating their pitching in the past.
Right.
So are they taking a step back on how they are viewing Tink Hence and all those other guys I just mentioned? Or does he just want to make sure that there is actually an up depth this year? And then I think also, like, I'll stop talking, but I think also what you said about, like, okay, what quality are these guys going to be? Like, if
Yeah.
you bring in a bunch of Rich Hill types, those are
It's
major
gonna
league
be,
pitchers.
yeah, it's gonna be awesome when it's like Rich Hill, Sonny Gray, and I don't know, I have to blow up the list, but another
Hey,
like,
hey, I'll
you
take
know,
Sonny Gray.
I know, but he'll be 34 next year, I think, and
Yeah.
so, yeah. Well, so I personally think that right now the only person that is for sure slotted into the rotation is Miles Michaelis,
Yeah.
and you and I are both big Mats fans, and we actually started to see why over the last month, but with the injury and the ineffectiveness of his last year and a half. I don't think you pencil him in as a starter next year. We need to see how he comes back and if he comes back healthy and what his spring looks like. So I think what I'm hoping when he said 3 is they mean Miles Michaelis and 3 legitimate MLB starters who then that 5th spot is a competition for all of these guys. And
Yeah.
then you assume that because it's pitching, 1 to 4 of the guys that you have penciled in your rotation are going to miss time. And then we get our Graceffos, who had a great start tonight, by the way. He's had an up and down season, but it looked like the velocity was back. Looks like he might be returning to form. But anyway, like basically go in with 4 that you are penciling in as everyday starters, hopefully high end, but we'll see. And then you have that 5th spot for everybody else.
Yeah.
And just assume you'll get starts from a lot of guys. And like I'm hoping that this is a bit of learning the lesson, and that you can't just go in with a whole bunch of 4, number 2s, number 3s, and number 4s and hope that they're all going to work. But we'll see. It's a compelling argument. He said we're going to be aggressive in the pitching market. And
That word, I'm already like pre-triggered by hearing that though. Like,
well, yeah, how many
what does that
times?
mean to him?
Yeah, to him, like, well, they've literally almost never participated in the pitching market. So outside of relief pitchers, which almost never has worked for them. So aggressive could just mean like actually talking to people about acquiring starting pitching. Like,
Right.
we called 4 or 5 agents. That's aggressive, But I mean, I think they are stating very clearly and have this whole season that the intention is to compete in 2024. If they weren't intending to compete in 2024, then they would have traded Paul Goldschmidt, who we know they got offers for. So they intended to compete in 2024, and they currently have 1 starting pitcher like locked in for next year. So if they truly intend to compete, then these are the things that he needs to be saying and the things that he needs to be doing. So I'm hopeful that, it's a trade for a high end guy. I am really intrigued by Yamamoto, the Japanese starter who the Cardinals apparently have some connections to beyond just Lars Nootbaar and his, participation with the World Baseball Classic. If you're unfamiliar, this dude is 25 years old and is just crushing it. He's basically been the best pitcher in the Japanese league for 2 years straight, and this year looks like it'll be 3 years straight. He's incredible. If you watch the WBC, you saw him. But he's not going to be cheap. Kodai Senga, who is with the Mets, he's 30 years old and got 575.
Right.
This guy's going to be like 25 or 26. So it's going to
But
be,
all he
6,
cost you is
140.
money.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think I think he's a perfect guy for the Cardinals to go after, because he has that upside and he's not going to cost you what an MLB experienced pitcher of
Right.
his talent level. Like Nola is probably going to end up getting more than this guy, and
Yeah.
probably rightfully so, right? But Yamamoto has this ceiling that I don't think anyone else on the market really has. So that's who I think. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm opening up the wallet. That's my biggest target. That I'm trading for someone, and then maybe a Sonny Gray. I doubt they get 3 of that level, but like that'd go a long way to making the
Yeah.
Cardinals 2024 competitive again.
Yeah. I mean, I think targeting somebody like Yamamoto, who you like you said, you're maybe getting 90 cents on the dollar, 80 cents on the dollar of what you get for a big league. And then there's the way that the free agent market is lining up next year for the Cardinals specifically is very good, because there is a lot of pitching, however, not a lot of high end pitching. So I do think you're right. Like Nola's he'll make a bunch of cash. I think Montgomery will make a bunch of cash. But Eduardo Rodriguez will likely be a free agent.
Yeah.
Luis Severino, Blake Snell,
Snell is a
Marcus,
compelling one. Snell
right?
has has that upside and that K per 9 that the Cardinals are looking for. So
Right. The Cardinals
there's
could
a
take
lot of
another swing
options.
at Marcus Stroman. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton, and I think if you're talking about the free agent market and the trade market, it shouldn't be that difficult. The writing's on the wall.
Yeah. You know who
But
my pet favorite is after Yamato, that I know will not happen, but the one that I want the most after Yamamoto is
Clayton Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw. How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
It's what I wanted the Cardinals to do last offseason. Of
Yeah.
course, the Dodgers are going to resign him. There's no way he ends his career with anyone else than the Dodgers, and he's on his way to his essentially inner circle Hall of Fame career as well. He's going to retire a Dodger, but how awesome would it be if he
Oh
served a
yeah.
couple of years as a Cardinal?
Yeah, that'd be a blast. I'll say if I had to pick one player that we haven't talked about, I'd throw like 4 or 5 years at Giolito. He's
Yeah.
29. I think our ballpark would play well for him. Big outfield, hopefully a better defense next year. And I think not that he's going to be a bargain by any means, but this is a guy you can sign. He'll eat up innings. I don't know. I think that would be a
Yeah.
great fit.
If Giolito is the best pitcher that they get next year, we're going to have a bad season again. But
Yeah.
if he is that second or third best pitcher that we get next year, then yeah, hell yeah. And I think you will get him for a good deal. He's been pretty volatile for a while now, but he will throw you a lot of innings, and then he'll have these stretches where it's like, holy shit, he is one of the best pitchers in
Yeah.
baseball. And
I
there's something to be said for leaving the White Sox too, although he's been getting crushed for the Angels, but
well,
that's also not a great organization to go to. And I would
exactly.
normally have said come to the Cardinals, where we're a great organization, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's, to me, based on the way that Mo and Co. have performed in the past, I think the ace is going to come from a trade. The high end guy is going to come up from a trade that's got control. He's young. And then the two other people are likely to be free agents, and they'll
Yeah.
be 3 and 4s would be my prediction.
Yeah, everyone has been looking at the Mariners, and I get it. I'm still skeptical that they will trade anyone because just I don't know. Like the Mariners, it's not like they're there yet, but maybe,
But they should be. They
they
should
should be.
divert. They're in the same spot the Cardinals are in. They have too much of one thing, and they're just sitting on it while their team is not going to likely make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, it's very silly.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I get it. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. So we'll see. I
oh,
mean,
sorry, I'll calm down.
this is going to be it'll be interesting to see what Mozeliak means in his own interpretation of what aggressive means, because it's kind of what we thought we were going to hear, or kind of what he was saying going into the trade deadline. And I mean, he kind of was. He, is an incredibly, one of the biggest trade deadlines that we've had. But it also was never like there was nothing shocking about it,
No,
So, yeah,
no, and like I think the signing of Wilson Contreras makes the whole Arenado Goldie window even more. Like you got 2 or 3 years where you really need to push in your resources while you have 2 Hall of Famers and a catcher that you just spent a bunch of money on. You need to make this worth it.
Yeah. Which is why, again, I think, everything, I think they know that. Now, are they willing to do the, like all in, shove all the chips? Like, no, I don't think so. We've seen it over and over and over. Mozeliak is not an AJ Preller. And for what it's worth, he is routinely justified, because look at all the teams that arguably went all in this year. Most of them are missing the playoffs. So,
The Padres do not make sense to me.
the Padres and the Mets are the ones that stick out to me. The teams that are constantly doing well are the teams that develop and then augment with the right stars. The
Right.
Dodgers, the Astros, the Rays, although they almost never augment, they just have this perfect churn. The Giants,
Perfect
they're gonna
churn.
perfect churn. The Giants are in the wild card spot right now.
I
They're
know
doing
that.
it again. There's nobody on that team that you would say is good. And
I
I don't, yeah.
I
It's
thought
so
they had
frustrating.
such a bad offseason, especially when they missed out on Machado and Judge. But
Yeah.
nobody cares. Just show up, have good pitching. Wilmer Flores is still playing well for them somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid, sexy Giants.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got more stuff to talk about, but before we do, we want to remind everybody that this show is brought to you by your listeners, our listeners, not your listeners, our listeners. This show is supported by listeners just like you via
There we go.
via Patreon. Patreon.com/talking about birds. If you enjoy the show and want to support its creation, the time and effort that we put into it, we would really, really appreciate it if you would check out patreon.com/talking about birds. We've got a bunch of different tiers, including the aforementioned Build a Wit tier. So if you're a lonely billionaire out there, hey, we'll cancel the podcast if you pay us enough money. It's got to be worth it to one person.
Come on now.
But for the rest of us normies out there, any subscriber at any level gets access to our private Discord. We call it the Bird Score. Tweet, baby.
Tweet.
We're having a great time in there. It's a great place to get away from X or whatever social media you're on. You just want to talk to, I'll say it again, some rude dudes with attitude. Come into the Bird Score. We're having a great time there talking about birds. Patreon.com/talking about birds. And if you want another way to support us, consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. That also helps. Hambone, where can people find us online otherwise?
I'm just going to keep saying Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. On Instagram, you can find us at Talking About Birds. We're on TikTok. Check us out on TikTok. If you prefer to listen to podcasts on Spotify, we're there. If you want to email us any questions, comments, concerns, corrections, threats, send them to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And you can find all of that information by just typing in talkingaboutbirds.com into your preferred browser. Talkingaboutbirds.com.
And we do follow up on all threats with equal and overreacting force.
It's fun.
And hey, and I almost never bring this up, but if you're into video games and you like short video games that respect your time, I'm on another podcast. It's called The Short Game. Check it out. So let's talk about the recent roster moves. If you're a fan of the Cardinals winning games, these roster moves are not your favorite thing. I think there's one in particular that really spells out to me what the Cardinals are hoping to do in the last half of the year. I'm going to skip a little bit ahead on your outline here, Ben, but with Steven Matz going on the 15-day IL, they have selected the contract of right-handed pitcher Casey Lawrence.
Who?
Yeah, from the
no,
Memphis
I mean
Redbirds.
like who?
Yeah. Amongst all of the prospects and all of the potential next year contributors, the Cardinals selected Casey Lawrence, who made his debut and actually did a pretty good job for the Cardinals tonight. But I think this is a pretty indicative of how the Cardinals intend to, patch holes over the next month and a half outside of maybe Mason Wynn or a spot start at the very end of the season from some of these guys. The Cardinals are clearly saying, like, we're not burning service time. We're not really attempting to field a truly competitive team. No offense to Casey Lawrence, probably a nice guy. But I don't even know. He might be a douchebag. I don't know. So he's a guy. He's
a lifer. He's a minor league lifer.
Yeah. And again, he actually did pretty well in the game tonight. So no disrespect. He's a Major League Baseball player. But this is what we're seeing right now. A lot of guys on the depth chart bypassed to get Casey Lawrence up into the major league to fill some innings. And I'm sure Mozeliak is saying, hey, he might blow a game or two. And then you go, okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Or like in today's game, he's going to come in where they're down by multiple innings and he's just going to, or runs, and he's just going to eat innings and get them to the end of the game.
Yeah, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but the Cardinals have zero motivation to win any games right now. They are rarely in this position. I don't blame them. I think it's
no
how I would do it. I don't know. Probably. I like it? No. It's terrible.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
There is no the other than fan enjoyment. But if you believe the long run that the fans will trade wins this year for more wins in future years, which I do think most Cardinal fans in time will be able to logically understand, like, this is the right move, you know? So just thought it was interesting. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
a pitcher's called up. Casey Lawrence.
Yeah.
Who? You know? So
He is definitely a guy. The Cardinals actually acquired him around the trading deadline just for this. Like they
yeah.
knew this was telegraphed. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there were a number of moves like this where you could just tell the Cardinals were acquiring arms to fill in for all the people that were about to be traded. So the bigger story from this is Steven Matz on the IL. We kind of already touched on this. It sucks.
yeah,
Everything was really clicking for him. And we'll see when he comes back. But like we're by time his IL stint even ends, earliest will be almost September.
yeah.
So, hopefully it doesn't. I
And
mean, yeah.
honestly, like it's a latch strain, not good.
Yeah.
Depending on how he feels, probably some point next week might just be done.
Yeah.
There's probably a little one part of the organization that wants him to end on a better note, but the other side could say, "Hey, Steven, you found something here. Let's not push anything. Let's get healthy for 24, and let's carry that over." And I would not be surprised if we saw the last of Mats in 2023, which is
Yeah.
honestly, again, fine.
Yeah. Another disappointing one, Dylan Carlson on the IL. Yeah, this has been
Man,
brewing for a little while, but
this year for Dylan has just been the
and
worst.
last year, it's 2 years in a
Yeah.
row now of just frequent injuries. And, I've never thought of him as like injury prone, even though he's been on the IL a lot. Like, but he's starting to get that tag for sure. And it's
Yeah.
killing his value, not only as a St. Louis Cardinal, but also when we talk about the assumed trade of multiple outfielders or something like that. Like, this isn't helping it. So
No.
it's a bummer. The flip side of it, though, is someone having one of the best minor league seasons of all time for the St. Louis Cardinals. Luken Baker is back with the big league club and is getting some play. You
Yeah. I
know,
mean, I'd like to see him pretty much start here throughout. Let's see what he's got, possibly market him to other teams. I mean, clearly he can hit. Clearly he has found something this year. Dude's rocking a 177 WRC plus in AAA. He figured that league out. I think it only makes sense to let
yeah.
it ride up here and see what happens. And they should be actively finding him at bats.
Yeah, agree. And he looks a little lost at the major league level. I get a little bit worried about the quad A thing. He's an older guy for triple A. He's 26 years old. He's obviously young for the broader MLB, but those numbers that he's putting up in triple A, get a little worried that he's just a big dude who mashes these like 20-year-olds that are throwing to him. But he's earned his spot at the major league level, and the Cardinals need to see what they've got from him. So
And I
I'm
mean,
hopeful.
anyone with 70 grade power who's hitting that well, yeah,
Yeah.
they deserve a runway. So let's see.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of deserving a runway, Zach Thompson is back up and is filling one of the multiple holes in the starting rotation. What have you been seeing from Zach Thompson so far?
I honestly am shocked at how good he looks.
Yeah.
I think we've been giving the Cardinals trouble all season for yo-yoing Zach Thompson and saying he needs to be or a relief guy, he needs to be a starter, screwing him up both ways. And then the fact that he has kind of been yo-yoed and really unproductive in AAA and the big league level, and then came up and have had two great starts, 4 innings, both of them, only gave up 1 run in each. The fastballs looked great. The curveball's money. That's his pitch, his signature. But yeah, it kind of is mind blowing. Obviously he's super talented. Maybe he's trying to prove himself, or maybe he found something. I don't know, but it's pretty great. Like Zach Thompson is if you're talking about that mixture of young guys taking up the fifth spot or being a depth piece, like he's kind of a dark horse in there with somebody, or as far as somebody who's got like serious stuff. He's a little bit like post hype at this point. yeah, where does he fit in? But this is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago that a lot of people, ourselves included, were very hyped about Zach Thompson, the starting pitcher. I believe he touched the top 100 prospects a couple times. Like, he's had some pedigree behind him. Now, I think even if he crushes for the next month and a half, I still don't think the Cardinals should pencil him in the rotation in 2024. They should pencil him in as competing for a spot, for that fifth spot, hopefully, as we've already discussed. But it's good to see, like, we've said that we expect one person, one rookie or one young guy over the next month and a half to really establish themselves as like a top competitor for the rotation next year. Uh, Zach Thompson might be it. Now, Liberatore had that incredible start against the
Yeah.
Rays, which, like, oh my God, like, it felt like everything was coming together. I felt so good. Struggled a little bit today against the Athletics, which is
Yeah.
hilarious. But we saw it. We finally saw, was obviously Liberatore's best start in the majors by a mile. Um, everything was working. We saw what it could look like at the major league level as like peak Liberatore. So I still think it's probably him, but also he got beat up by the Athletics, and
Yeah.
so feels like it's gonna be one of Thompson or Liberatore really leave this year as, like, hopefully the top competition against Steven Matz for the fifth spot.
Right.
That's my hope. We'll see. Let's see. Were there any other roster moves?
Jake Woodford has
Yes.
began a rehab assignment, who is somebody who very likely will also be eating innings as the year winds down. But nothing too exciting there. But it's good to have Jake healthy.
Yeah. What a year for him. Started as the fifth starter. Remember
Yeah.
that? Feels
Oh yeah.
like a decade ago when he earned that fifth spot.
Not only did he earn that spot, but we were excited about it. I thought that
Yeah.
good things could happen from old Jakey. He had such a good man. The Cardinals had the best record in spring training, and it just goes to show you that that means nothing.
Right.
And I thought I knew that, but I thought because the Cardinals had such a large contingent at the WBC and they were still performing well, and the Cardinals players were performing decently, if not great, in the WBC, I was like, oh man, once this gets together, this team is going to roll through the Central. And
Hmm.
looking back 5 months into the past, and now,
How young we were.
oh my, it
How
is just mind blowing how this can happen. But
we were
doesn't
but
matter now.
children in
Yeah,
March. Now we're
little
grizzled.
little doll faced
We're
holiday.
No, now we're haunted dolls. Going into we were Margot Robbie, baby. We were looking good,
This
keeping it
metaphor is
tight.
confusing.
We were Barbie, and now we're haunted Jackson Holiday. It's
Okay.
There's a clear line there.
Yeah. Sorry. My bad.
Yikes. All right, let's talk about the upcoming series. We've got 4 games at home against the Mets. Uh,
Mets. Mets.
yeah.
Mets. Mets.
Well, I mean, at least we can laugh at the Mets.
Yes. That does
Like,
feel
at
good.
least we have that. Um, Although, mm, we're still kind of laughing up at them. But still, the Mets
Hey,
went
as
out
of today,
and
the records are tied.
okay. Well, but now we want to lose to them because we want a better draft pick than them. But
Yeah.
it's still Steve Cohen should be in prison, and it's always fun when the Mets suck. So we have that going for us. We kind of already talked about them. They do have some, they like the Cardinals. They've got some guys that should be mashes. Lindor has been good forever. Pete Alonso is actually having a pretty rough year, but he's still hitting the ball hard. Um, and then they've got bits and pieces around that will Francisco Alvarez, their catcher, right? Looks like he might be one of the best catchers of the future. But there's a reason why they've been bad, and they also traded a bunch of their best players. So
Yeah. I mean, they
it's
don't
a
look
it's a
like the same team anymore.
yeah, it's a tale of two sellers, this in this 4-game series. But it's at Busch, so it should be some good games. Each individual game can still be fun to watch.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we might see Kodai Senga. Obviously, Scherzer and Verlander are gone. McGill and Peterson are both somewhat decent starters. But yeah, I mean, the Mets kind of stink. Their offense is the only real good part. Like, I really do think that Jeff McNeil is a good hitter. Brandon Nimmo is a good hitter. And obviously, like Pete's decent. But yeah, it's a very, very flawed team. They were kind of in a way, like, even though they spent so much money and the way that they got there was very different, the Cardinals and Mets do have a lot of similarities. Just like a underperforming slash
Yeah,
injured pitching rotation, and an offense that wasn't all clicking at the same time. Not to mention losing their lights out top two best closer in baseball for a significant amount of time. Of course, the Mets had David Robertson, who ended up having a great year as well, when Diaz went down. But with Edwin Diaz and Ryan Helsley,
yeah.
obviously not as dramatic, similar. I do wonder. Like, I'm just here sitting here pontificating on why the Cardinals found themselves here. But if Helsley had the same year that he had last year, how different would the Cardinals season have been? Would that have been
Well,
enough to turn it around?
no, I don't think so. But
All these late blowups, though.
so the Cardinals have the most blown saves in baseball this year. And a save, it can be confusing because saves are only awarded in the ninth, or there's some other rules that can allow you to get one in the eighth or even the seventh. But generally speaking, when you think of a save, you think of the ninth inning. So, but you can blow a save in the seventh or eighth. And
Sure.
so the Cardinals have the most blown saves in the MLB this year. And so if you have Helsley elite, you maybe don't have a third of those, but you're still,
No,
in the
no,
bot.
I think you're underselling it because you have Helsley, who's carrying the bulk of the load and being dominant,
Sure.
which makes Giovanni Gallego's life a lot easier, makes Jordan Hicks' life a lot easier. And then maybe, you get this standout performance from Jojo Romero. Maybe Genesis Cabrera
Right.
figures it out because there's less pressure on him. Like, I'm not saying it's all Helsley's
Yeah.
fault, but I do think having a guy that throws 104, the backup
Sure.
bullpen,
Yeah.
deployed by Ali Marmol being smart, changes the season quite a bit. And I
Yeah.
think the same thing is true for the Mets. I think the Mets would their season probably would have been a lot different if Edwin Diaz had been there.
Yeah. It's a fair point. Losing an elite reliever means way more than just the 60 or so innings that they're going to pitch, right? It slots everybody up and makes lesser pitchers have to pitch in higher leverage situations. So I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals have a historically bad record for the Cardinals, at least, in 1-run games, which are games that are often determined by the bullpen. So I think the problems are deeper than that, but they're definitely, they're fighting for third place, I think, if we have Helsley and not
Yeah,
worst record in baseball. So
right.
um but we'll never know. After the Mets, we have 3 games in Pittsburgh. I don't know what else there is to say about the Pirates. We actually kind of talked about them already. This is one of the teams we're the most familiar with. Uh, they're not good. Uh, it's like I guess what I want is the Cardinals to beat the Pirates, but it basically end with the Pirates and the Cardinals having the 2 worst records in the NL,
Yeah.
but the Cardinals have one more win than the Pirates. I guess that's what I truly want.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really have much else to add. There's not much to say
Yeah.
about the Pirates. But yeah, it'd be
Love
fun to beat them. Central rivals. Let's do that.
You know what I love though? Love that yellow bridge. You know what I
Love
mean?
that yellow bridge. Have we talked about the Pirates City Connect jerseys?
No.
They
I
have
don't
that yellow. looks like a yellow spray painted helmet. It looks like a construction helmet. I think it is terrible. Also, across their chest is just their airport code, which I also think is dumb. So I don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
But
It's such a
maybe we'll
missed
see them.
opportunity. The City Connect is such a disparity between the good ones and the bad ones. It feels like there's like no middle ground. They're either awesome or dumb and bad or like boring, you know.
Yeah,
I'm so hopeful that the Cardinals are
they don't
good.
screw it
We'll
up.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into some league news.
Yep.
Been a handful of interesting developments over the last week.
Yeah.
What do you want to
I'll
talk about first?
I'll buzz through. I already commented on this one, so I'll buzz through this. We don't need to talk about it. But Wander Franco, superstar shortstop for the Rays, has been placed on MLB's restricted list, and the investigation into his potential relationship with a minor or minors, as has come out, will begin in earnest. The MLB, I just said the MLB. MLB is working with
You
officials
fool.
in the Dominican Republic. Terrible story. Uh,
Yeah.
uh what's it's bad for so many reasons, and I
Yeah.
don't think I need to sit here and talk about all those reasons. Just to put a little bit of a baseball flair on it is how um crazy damaging this is going to be to the Tampa Bay Rays. Just as a baseball team, I don't want to talk about like obviously everything about this is just icky. But
Yeah.
I can't really think of anything. This is like totally unprecedented. A superstar player with a long guaranteed contract playing at a high level at such a young age, and it. I hope
He,
this is. I
he
hope it's not even true, but it looks like his contract might get voided. If it is, there's just so
yeah.
much smoke right now. We'll see if there's fire, but
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. We really hope that the allegations turn out to be not true, but it deserves a full investigation, and whatever is
Yeah.
learned we'll find out. Yeah, it's horrible. I hope that it is not real. But if it is, yeah, I mean, it sucks. And yeah, it's I don't even know how to like talk about something like
Yeah.
this. It's
It'll
so
just
it's
we
so gross and bad. So if it's real, that he could be in prison. It's
yeah.
like it's an insane story. So we'll see.
It is. Let's talk about something less horrifying. The Phillies traded for starting pitcher Mike Lorenzen, who has kind of been such a not journeyman's not the right word, but he's just never really fully clicked in at either hitting or pitching, starting or relieving, whatever. Doesn't matter anymore. He goes to the Phillies, Mikey from Philly, and he throws a no hitter, albeit
Yeah.
against the
Yeah.
Nationals. But
Still.
if I would have like, who is the least likely guy? This guy is never efficient. He never makes it deep in games. But anyways, great to see. I kind of like the Phillies. I like Bryce Harper. I like Trey Turner. I like Kyle Schwarber. They're kind of a likable team, even though they're in Philly. And kind of a great
Yeah.
story. Also, did you know that he did this while wearing Vans cleats, which I didn't even know were a thing until this no hitter happened?
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And yeah, I have the same feeling about the Phillies. Like, as a Cardinal fan, I am just like I am ingrained to despise the Phillies. But the players I really like. I really, Harper's one of my
Yeah,
favorite players, as you said, and
yeah,
I like Trey Turner. Schwar bombs are fun, even though I have like his performance with the Cubs, and the one on top of the scoreboard is like a dark memory for me. I still, you know, he's a fun
sure,
player to watch. So anyway, yeah, I mean, good for him.
yeah.
You can't ask for a better fucking like, hey, I'm on your team now. So
Let's
it's
go.
a yeah.
Yeah. A couple of big pitcher injuries in the news. Marcus Stroman has been diagnosed with a rib cartilage fracture. No timetable for his return at this point. Obviously,
Cartilage fracture.
I know. I don't even know what rib cartilage is.
Cartilage. I mean, I can assume. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume it's cartilage that probably is near your ribs. And
Shut the hell
so
up. You're such an idiot.
having it fracture, though, I
Yeah.
thought cartilage tears.
Well, guess what? Marcus Stroman's
this
fractured.
this is fractured. Yeah.
Um, he's a tough cookie, but I bet this means he's out for the season. And I actually
Yeah.
think it is kind of a bummer for the Cubs. I before this injury, I thought the Cubs and Brewers were pretty 1-1. With the performance of the pitching of the Brewers recently. But I think this kind of not that one player makes the whole team go, but I think this is a bit of a nail in the coffin for the Cubbies season unless they
It's
can
going to be
get
tough.
somebody to step up. Yeah, but
They're 2.5. They're 2.5 back. They had a big walk-off win today,
yeah,
but yeah, it's going to be hard. Their pitching was already kind of suspect, and then losing
yeah,
him, it's tough.
not great. Shane McClanahan of the Tampa Bay Rays is set to undergo Tommy John surgery. Obviously, he will be out the remainder of the year and the majority of next year. I think we've said on this podcast he might be the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah,
So just
he was
on
my
that alone,
AL Cy
just
Young pick, so
yeah,
that's close.
yeah, hard to do that when
Uh,
you don't have an elbow tendon.
yeah, it sucks. Like, I mean, the Rays have had some horrible luck with pitching this year. I think that's their third like high end starter this year to need Tommy John. Drew Rasmussen and Jeffrey Springs, who were
Yeah,
all core parts of their rotation, are all out for the rest of the year. And they keep plugging away, but it's gonna stack up. And this is the biggest
yeah.
one of them all.
Not to mention they are about to lose or they have lost their star offensive player for a certain
Yeah,
amount of time. But yeah, um, again, we were talking about how long the year is. Remember how they started the season,
yeah.
13-0, and
They banked a
there
lot
we
of
are.
wins.
They did. We've been kind of following this story. Unfortunately, it comes to an end. Daniel Murphy retires and ends his comeback attempt, which is
Yeah,
disappointing. He was hitting 295 in AAA in the Angels system. Did not come with much power, which is why I guess it probably didn't come to fruition.
yeah,
But hit 295 over 38 games after taking a handful of years off. That alone is incredible.
yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
kind of a bummer, but good try.
At least he tried. Good for him. Late 30s,
Yeah,
hitting 300 in the minors. Still,
pretty
he
cool.
still got it, just not at the
Yeah,
major league. He's gonna go
yeah,
absolutely crush a beer league softball team
yeah,
somewhere. You know
right.
what I mean? He's gonna hit like
Yeah,
a 980, and the one out is gonna be like a scorcher at the shortstop who made
and
the play of
he
his
pulls
life.
it out the ball out of his chest or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. In less exciting news, Rob Manfred speaks out publicly backing the Royals' bid for a new stadium. Um, I'm not surprised by this. Obviously, he is a talking piece of the owners. It makes sense. He wants the owners to increase their real estate holdings and everything like that. And really, the crux of this, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this too much, but really the crux of it is that KC just wants to move their stadium downtown and then
yeah.
do like, ooh, this really interesting idea with like a ballpark village. And maybe there's some restaurants and maybe people are living there and blah, blah,
Sounds
blah, blah,
nice.
blah. Yeah. And I kind of, the only reason I really wanted to bring this up is because, of course, Missourians should not be funding this billionaire and his extravagant project that he wants to do to make himself more money. But also, why do we need the Royals ballpark is fine. They just put hundreds of millions of dollars into it. It has a massive parking space. You can tailgate there. It is connected essentially to the football stadium. They have the sports complex. And
Yeah,
we don't always need a new stadium. I think it's kind of
yeah.
ridiculous. I think it's a great stadium. Um, and the, I just don't want to see Missouri taxpayers pay for this guy to have a new stadium when it's completely unneeded.
100%. I think that, like, generally speaking, the voting bloc has gotten a lot smarter about this, and we've seen proposals for
Yeah.
high taxpayer funding, um, uh, you know, handouts to these billionaires have been reducing over the years, and as a Missourian, I'd be very surprised if Missouri passes a thing to fund another ballpark for KC. So I hope not. If the
Yeah.
billionaire wants to spend his own money to build it, like I like the downtown ballpark experience. I think that's cool. But I agree with you totally. Kauffman Stadium is totally fine, and there's also a lot of benefits to the like right outside of the city stadium,
Yeah.
especially if you've got it
And
tied with other sports. If it's like a complex like they have, like
right.
there's that makes a lot of sense too.
What is that drive? 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
like it's
I can't speak for it's right off of 70. You see it
right.
when you drive to
Yeah.
KC.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. I'm sure he'll get his way because that's how it goes. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. The final thing on my little news reel here is a Babe Ruth game used home run bat. This
Yeah.
it was authenticated that Babe Ruth had hit a home run in an
Wow.
exhibition game. It wasn't a real game, but he did hit a home run with this bat. It sold for $1.3 million this week. And that is, if you're wondering, a record
Yeah.
that anyone has ever paid for a bat, period.
All right. That guy go and help this billionaire buy his new whoever bought that
Right.
bat can go
Yeah.
pitch in on the new stadium because
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's
weirdly, that
such a
guy has not released his name, shockingly.
yeah, because it's extreme bullshit to spend
Yeah.
$1.3 million on a fucking exhibition bat from the 20s. Like, I'm a big fan of baseball history, and like I get it, and like, well, I'm not a
Yeah.
collector, so I have a hard
Right.
time connecting with these sorts of things. But like, I kind of get it to some degree. If you are a collector, that's a cool item.
It
But
is.
$1.3 million for a piece of wood that like a
Yeah.
fat dude from the 30s, you know, held like
Yeah.
that, yeah, like uh
Yeah.
oh man, there's so much better things we could do with $1.3 million.
Nah. Get a bat.
Get a bat, get a piece of wood, hang on your
Yeah.
wall.
All right. That's all I got for league news.
Babe Ruth. It's not even that cool. Like if it was like a Babe Ruth home run bat from like a playoff game or that like won the
Well, you
won
you
them.
didn't read the article. Those basically don't exist. You can't find them. That's why this one, even though it wasn't really used for anything of note, was so expensive, is because they just don't exist.
Yeah, and that's okay. So then they just don't exist, and maybe this stupid exhibition bat shouldn't be worth one. I don't know.
I
They're
don't know
like,
why you're more mad about this than you are about the Rob Manfred thing, but it's very funny to me.
well, I'm mad about that too. It just like this is a good example of it where it just
Yeah,
is like too much money in in
sure.
in 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 people's hands. So, all right,
Certain people's hands.
yeah, not my hands. Put that money in
Right.
my hands. I
That's
will
what he
do much.
that's what he
Yeah,
means, people. Yeah.
yeah. I'll give the bat to the people.
There we go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right,
I love
that's
it when
it.
you just nail a landing like that.
Give the bat to the people. Let's end this episode on a little game. We're going back to one of our favorites. Ben, you've done well at it recently, though there's been some ups and downs.
Oh
That's
wow.
right. We're doing another round of Who Is This Guy?
Who is this guy?
All right.
Skip Schumacher.
I already did that one.
Damn it.
So if this is your first time hearing this game, I have a set of clues about a player who has played at some point at the major league level for the St. Louis Cardinals. These clues start incredibly vague and get more and more specific. Ben gets a guess after every clue. He also has to guess.
Ba-ba-ba-bum. Okay.
So let's go ahead and start. This player was born on July 13th, 1978, in Satellite Beach, Florida.
Satellite Beach, Florida. All right. I'm not sure if I'll just say Miles Michaelis. I know he's from Florida.
Nope. All
All right.
right. This player at the major league level has played for St. Louis, Texas, Cleveland, San Diego, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati.
That's a lot of teams. Could you do that one more time?
St. Louis, Texas, Cleveland, San Diego, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. That was in no particular order.
No particular. Texas, Cleveland. Okay. I'm going to say, oh crap, I'm forgetting his name. Jake. Not Jake Woodford. Oh, he's a pitcher that the Cardinals traded for. He used to be from the Guardian or the Indians. Jake. Oh crap!
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you want me?
Yeah, you want. It sounds like I'm wrong. So yeah, if you want to help me with,
were you thinking of Jake Westbrook?
Westbrook. There we go. Thank you.
It is not Jake Westbrook.
Okay,
it's a good guess though.
Damn.
All right. Third clue. In 2008, he was second on the Cardinals in Baseball Reference WAR, behind only Albert Pujols.
Oh, 2008. Oh man, this is tough. Ryan Ludwig. I don't know.
That's actually it. You got it. It's
wow.
Ryan.
Holy
it's
crap.
Ryan Ludwig. It's
oh
Ryan
my God.
Ludwig. Yeah.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
That was a shot from the hip. That was.
I could tell the way you said it. It was like, well, it's anticlimactic. You got it, and you didn't think you did. So I'll go ahead and you might have gotten it on this next one because it's funny that you mentioned Jake Westbrook. So the next clue was on July 31st, 2010, he was traded as part of a 3-team trade by the Cardinals. The Padres sent Corey Kluber to the Cleveland Indians.
Oh, wow.
San Diego Padres sent Nick Greenwood to St. Louis Cardinals, and the Cleveland Indians sent Jake Westbrook to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow.
So Westbrook was involved. He was the big return really from the Ludwig trade. Now, would have been interesting if we got Corey Kluber instead of Jake Westbrook.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
It's always interesting, those 3-team trades.
Yeah.
And then the final clue was when he was really crushing, his nickname was a clumsy portmanteau of his name and Thud.
I would have got it there for sure.
Yeah. I like it.
Right.
I'm pretty sure you would have gotten Thudwig.
Yikes. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got there. I'll take that as a W.
Yep. So, all right, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode. As always, we appreciate your time, and we hope that you will share it with your friends. Word of mouth is always the best way for podcasts to grow. Consider the Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. It may be a rough season, but we can still have some fun together, enjoying the season, and going into September and October baseball. Even if the Cardinals won't be a part of the October side of it.
Yeah.
So thank you again. We'll be back next week as always. And until then, go Cardinals.
Okay, thank you. Bye.